evening, all of Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago, the West Indies, and the world at large. Welcome to this week's episode of the Minority Report. I'm Marlon David, your host, and this week we have yet another interesting time of conversation, time when we sit and look at the issues, time when we weigh out the facts and we present information to the public that puts persons in a better position, whereas they can be informed and make informed decisions. Again, let me, as per usual, thank each and every one of you who weigh in on the program, who log in and make this program actually what it is and what it has become. I've been meeting so many people throughout Tobago and even Trinidad who would call and they say that on a Tuesday evening, they're literally shut down. They're in attention mode where they log in on Facebook, they log in or tune into their cable TV and they wait with bated breath to participate and to hear the conversations and so on. And the general consensus throughout every individual who I've spoken to or who have reached out is that the program is really presenting them with information that in other circumstances they would not have known. So I want to thank each and every one of you who continue to support this program, who continue to share your comments, who make recommendations, and in a general sense, who would just reach out and with a sense of encouragement. And even for those who would even send their prayers. And I mean, this is something that I must say has become really admirable. Many individuals would pray on voice notes and actually send it forward as a means of encouragement as well. So I want to thank you all. I want to really appreciate what you all have been doing, the support, the efforts, the consistency in really viewing the program and making this program the number one current affairs program presently in Tobago. This evening I want to officially welcome each and every one of you. I want to say that you can view this particular program on the Tobago Updates website, the Tobago Updates YouTube page, and what is most frequently viewed, the Tobago Updates Facebook page. However, we are also now on channel 102 on the Amplia Communications Network. So if you have Amplia internet and cable, you can turn your television to channel 102 and you can view not only the Minority Report but all programming coming off of the Tobago Updates Network. This evening with me, I'll go right into some introductions because I want us all to be part of the conversation from as early up. So I'm going to take the pleasure this evening of beginning introductions from my immediate front, a fixture now on the program, a gentleman who is always up to the task and continues to really fly the flag of excellence and wisdom high, not only in Tobago but in Trinidad as well, and I dare say the world. So as in my usual fashion, I want to take the opportunity to welcome Senator Lawrence Hislop to the program. Welcome, Senator.
Good evening, Marlon. Good evening, Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago. It is, as usual, truly a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to our conversation, our robust conversation this evening.
Yes, I must say, as usual, very robust conversation. I also want to take the opportunity to welcome no stranger to the program. He has been with us before, and it's a pleasure to have him yet again this evening. Joining us, Mr. Maxlon Roberts. How are you, sir?
I am great. I am always great. So I want to say good evening to the viewing public on whatever platform you may be viewing us. And good evening to Trinidad and Tobago by extension, and the rest of the wider world who is viewing. And I really do look forward to our dialogue this evening because we know on the Minority Report we tend to keep it very interesting.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to that discussion this evening.
Glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. And on my immediate right, a newcomer to the program, first time up. However, I trust that it will definitely not be a first time, but it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago, the West Indies and the world. Miss Aisha McKnight joining us here on panel in studio. Welcome, Aisha.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Good night or good evening, Tobago. Good evening, Trinidad. It's a pleasure to be here.
And I know definitely you're eager for us to get into these conversations this evening. Just to add some more information, Max Lund, as introduced earlier, is also a member of the executive of the Tobago Council, as well as Aisha, who holds the post of the research officer, Max Lund being the treasurer. So it's definitely going to be quite an interesting conversation this evening. But before we get into it, let me take the opportunity to say good evening to the minority leader and minority councillor. So we have Assemblyman Kelvin Morris, who I know is with us as per usual in spirit. You may see him logging in sometime shortly, and minority councillor Dr. Danielle Benoit, who is also with us in spirit and has indicated that she as well is going to be closely following the program this evening. Guys, thanks for being a part and making this what it is, the minority and the office of the minority leader, and we continue to support the efforts in as many ways as we see fit and are able to. So we're going to kick it off this evening. We see in Tobago, and as we've been looking at over the last couple of weeks, there seems to be a continuous flow, a downward flow as it were, of a lot happening in the public domain. I think it's very difficult now to even keep up with some of the occurrences. However, there are certain things that would have stood out definitely in the public domain. But before we get into beginning to dissect, and I must say this evening that our topic for the program tonight is the declining image of the THA. And let me repeat that, the declining image of the THA. And I'm certain that by the time we close this program, those who were not convinced would definitely be convinced of this particular theme. But we would have seen the budget read, the budget statement laid recently in the House of Assembly by the Chief Secretary. And as we're in that season, I want to give each member of the panel the opportunity to really weigh in on that conversation. Give me your thoughts on the budget, how you see this budget helping, improving, baseless, as the case may be. So I'm going to open the floor for the conversation.
I'll ask the goodly senator to go first.
Max, go with protocol, yes?
As I said in another place after the budget, I have no hang-ups with the request by the Secretary for Finance and the Economy, the Chief Secretary. I really have no hang-ups with the ask. I will always be an advocate for Tobago having all that it needs or all that it desires. And so the ask in itself is not a challenge for me. What I have an issue with is the management of what you would have received since you came into office, and how you used your previous allocations, because I just want to remind the population that when the administration took over, the administration actually was responsible for the largest part of the financial year because they would have won the election in December. And so the first quarter of the financial year would have been managed by the People's National Movement Administration. And so from January, which would have been the start of the second quarter of the financial year, this present administration would have been responsible for the management of the allocation onwards. And so they dealt with the lion's share of that financial year. They're now into what it is, the second budget, into their second budget, which means that they now have full access to, well, they have access to a full financial year. So my concern is not so much about the ask. I would tell you that some of the initiatives that the administration seeks to roll out, I do have a challenge with, because it will redound to the benefit of Tobago once it is implemented. But my challenge is, what have you done with your previous allocations? And if we are being honest, the present administration has done nothing with their previous allocations. The administration also enjoyed the larger allocation than the previous over the last 5 years. They have received a larger allocation from the national budget, somewhere in the vicinity of about $125 million more than previous PNM administrations would have received. And so the issue, and I think I said it, I'm not sure I said it today, but I want to emphasize the point that if I'm to use the words of the current Chief Secretary, the issue is not the money. The issue is the management of the money. Because I remember when he campaigned for his position of Chief Secretary, he made it very clear. And again, I wish we had the clip to run the clip, but we'll definitely get the clip at some point in time. As he said, the issue is not the money or the size of the allocation. The issue is the management of the money. So my issue is not how much you ask for. My issue is, what have you done with what you have received? To whom much is given, much is required. And if you are unable to manage little, quote unquote little, how then could you manage much? Yeah, so that is where I would leave it. I would leave it for now to allow my colleagues to jump in as well.
And I would just mention probably 2 areas regarding the ask, as the goodly senator indicated. The ask, we can always ask.
Yeah.
But I want to say something. God cannot be mocked, and it's a simple principle. And if you look at the principle in the Bible that spoke about the talents, to one he gave 5, to one he gave 3, and to one he gave 1. And the one who he gave 1, well, the one who he gave 5 multiplied it, used it wisely. And God instructed, you were faithful in little things, so now you can manage more. Yeah. And we know how that story goes. The one who he gave 1 hid the 1 and said, well, this is not enough. What to do with it? And God took back his 1.
Yeah. From him.
So you had a situation, we have a situation, you had for development 300 million that you gave away. Or as they say, you spirited away.
Spirited.
To build another economy. And now you're asking for more. That is against the principles of good governance and the principles of the Bible, in that analogy that I just highlighted. So you can't mismanage what you had and come and ask for more. You haven't demonstrated that you have the capacity to even desire more. So that is my take with that, and I say God cannot be mocked. right? The it's not my words, it's their words. The wish list, wasn't my words, that's their words. We can always ask, but it's not what we ask for, it's how we, as the Goalie Senator indicated, how we manage what we have. And we haven't seen proper management being demonstrated. If you look around you and you're being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the reasons for the theme this evening, the declining image of the DHA. If we are honest with ourselves, we can't say we've actually seen where we've moved. Well, the statistics, and I'm big on I am big on statistics and information. The statistics have showed us that we have actually regressed. Right?
Yeah.
Not me. The statistics say that. All right? So it's good to ask. It's good to ask openly. Ask. The Bible says ask,
Yeah.
and it shall be given, but we'll see how that goes. But if you mismanage what you have, if you're unfaithful or you're not faithful in little things, you can't ask for more. It's against the governing principles of the universe.
So true. I would like the director to pull up a particular image that I would have sent so that we can also use this as part of the discussion, to inform part of this part of the discussion. So I'd like you to pull up. Thank you very much. So at this point in time, let's hear, Aisha, you, I know you have quite a lot to say when it comes to these things.
But for me, and looking at the image in front of us, it shows clearly that they have been getting a larger bite. And as the senator said, since 2021, when they came in, they got that first quarter allocation. But the budgets, I don't know, it just seemed generic, like any other day, any other speech. And I mean, they campaigned on the bread and butter issues. Let we fix this was the tagline. But that budget did not, it didn't marry where that campaign or what they campaigned on is concerned. So it's to me, it's not addressing any major issue, any issue that we are facing now, any socioeconomic issues that the island is facing right now. The budget does not address it. And I know that years ago, well, in the previous administration, we used to actually consult with the wider public, not just the technocrats, but the wider public. Surveys used to happen, used to go out, discussions used to happen, just getting opinions on how the money should be spent, what should be the focus for this upcoming year, and then the budget presentation would have been prepared. But I didn't see or hear anything happen this year. So I don't know what's the basis or what they're basing their ask on. And I would really like to know how. And for me, as Maxillan Maryland. As Maxillan was saying, my basis is on data, and the data clearly shows a lot of mismanagement. The information shows a lot of mismanagement, that they have been getting a bigger budget from the PNM in Trinidad, even though they claim and they cry on every program all over Tobago that they are not getting any money. It shows clearly, and as the screen is up, it shows clearly that they have been getting way more than what the previous administration was getting, and the previous administration has been able to do so much with the little that they were getting, and they are doing less now that they have more. They're doing less for us, for people, for Tobago, as they have more now.
So I want us to pivot off this part of the discussion, and I'm glad that we had the chart there to actually give our viewers an idea of when we say they are getting more. It's not just that it's we just talking or speaking words or just feel to say something. As per usual, we always present, and if we look at the chart, we will see 2019 allocation, 2.24 billion. 2020 allocation, 2.29 billion. And bear in mind, these 2 years were years of COVID. And so a significant a chunk of whatever was allocated would have gone into keeping people alive and keeping people fed and simply keeping the economy from crashing.
Yes.
So this would have been a robust spending period. Then we saw 2021, 2.14 billion. Again, we're still seeing the impact of the COVID period. However, what was recorded in Tobago in all sectors, you were seeing indicators of growth. Yes. You were seeing post-COVID recovery. You were seeing, and last week in our program, we had the minority leader and minority councillor actually bringing the facts with respect to tourism and the time that they served on the board. So we saw economic recovery showing its head in all sectors. There was a lot of thrust being put into the agricultural sector by the then Chief Secretary and now political leader, Ansel Dennis. We saw tourism showing its head again. We had tourist arrivals, as explained last week, that had begun to definitely go up. We saw a number of things re-emerging. So there was clear distinction that economic recovery was on the horizon. And then this administration took over in a time where, as Senator Hislop indicated, they now inherited the larger portion from the word go of the budget and the allocation.
2021 allocation.
So they came into administration, and what was humorous about it was that the Chief Secretary spent the first month or so telling Tobago that it had no money.
Yeah.
There was no money at all. He didn't even understand that the allocation for that period was at a close. It was for that period, and then you would now get the second quarter allocation. So it
and that Marlon is where you're being disingenuous.
Yeah.
Because you ran a campaign on mismanagement, on the PNM's mismanagement, so-called mismanagement of the economy. And you came in and the first thing you're doing is lying and saying that there is no money. When we are at the start of our financial year, we are at the end of the first quarter of a financial year, which means that you are yet, or you are in the process of receiving your allocation for the second quarter. Because and you know, persons bought into that nonsense here. That we just spent out, that the PNM just spent out all the money for 2020, for 2021, for 2021, 2022 budget.
Yeah.
The entire allocation. In 3 months.
In 3 months.
Yeah.
Not understanding that you get your allocation. And what we also want to remind the population is that during Mr. Jack's tenure as Secretary for Finance, one of the things that he was faced with was the allocation coming to the THA on a month-by-month basis.
Yeah.
Yes, I was not thinking that.
And it was a month-by-month basis, not because the finance minister didn't want to give the money. It's because the entire country was in a cash flow issue, a cash flow situation. So you got the money as the money came in. And I wish you had the video, the clip again, where Mr. Imbert was highlighting the fact that when the national economy contracted, he had to cut all ministries.
Yeah.
Including the Tobago House of Assembly. But the cut for the Tobago House of Assembly was much less than any of the ministries in Trinidad. We're talking, he is cutting ministries by 25% and the THA is getting cut by 2%.
Yeah.
And this is the same Minister of Finance that is being demonized.
Yeah.
No.
But we don't understand that Moody's just improved Trinidad and Tobago's rating to positive.
I think that the Minister of Finance should go back to month, because now understand why I'm saying that, because they are getting the allocations quarterly
Yes.
now, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's too much money for them to manage at. So that's why there are persons who are getting paid late because they're traveling and having a good time, and so whatever happens after.
The one aspect where, and when we still in that context of the budget, how could you present a budget without any backdrop information, without indicating that this is where we came from,
and where you're going?
where we're
What's
going,
your position?
what
right
is
now,
our
and where you're
position? You presented a budget and didn't mention that our economy has regressed by 2%, right? Any 2 quarters of
going?
decline
There
is a recession. That's a year of decline, and you don't mention that. What is the intent behind that?
But then why would he? He's the Secretary of Finance. Why would he mention
No,
something like that?
and that's the thing. You mention it because you claim to care about Tobago and it advancing. That is serious business. That is not no joke. And this is the thing. That is not no jokey thing. Your economy is crashing. You ain't telling nobody.
No, but if I tell them, Maxwell, if I tell them, it will make me look bad. So why would I say that?
Also, it's about looking bad.
It's about the image. It's about
But you
what
see,
you present to the public. It's a whole pie in the sky presentation that went on.
Okay. We have, and Senator Hislop touched on it a bit when he spoke to the fact that the first thing that you did when you came in was lie to the public. And as realistic as that may be, a lot came into question after that in my mind, because I actually moved away from, is it just lying or is it incompetence?
It's a combination of both.
Doesn't know exactly what has to be done, and
It's a
is
combination
not
of
taking
both.
advice.
If I'm incompetent, I like to cover my incompetence. So if I'm unable, if I don't know what I'm doing, in another place you may use another language, but if I don't know what I'm doing, I'll fudge my way through, and that's what we're facing right now. Let me tell you something. We didn't need percentage points to tell us that Tobago's economy is in decline. We didn't need that. We just needed to have a conversation with people. And people will tell you, have a conversation with the business community, with the man on the street, and they'll tell you that they're feeling it.
Yeah.
I'm aware of business places that within a week are accustomed to a particular amount of products coming off their shelf that said to me, hey, for the entire week I only did 2 or 3 items that on a normal basis will roll off, will come out of my yard in 20s for the week. And the last 2 weeks I've only done 3 items. So we didn't need an economist to tell us that the economy in Tobago is in decline. Just look around, just talk to people
in your community, yes.
The mini-marts are telling you that sales are down. Retail outlets are telling you sales are down. You know what I am fearful of? We already don't have a vibrant retail sector in Tobago in terms of your mall shopping and so on. There is going to come a time very soon where all our retail outlets are going to be empty. Because the rent is required. And if people don't have spending power, how are you going to stay in business?
Yeah.
And then there is obviously going to be a ripple effect from that. If I am a real estate developer with a building that houses retail outlets that are unable to pay their rent and I have to evict, what's going to end up happening to me when I have my $100,000 loan at the bank that I can't pay? What's going to happen? And we have to be honest with ourselves that in Tobago, a lot of the retail outlets are indigenously owned. Let's look at Portmore, for example. What if a businessman like the owner of Portmore runs into a situation like that? What's gonna be the problem on the island? What are we gonna face? And people are trivializing.
Yeah.
People are trivializing and seeking
Exactly.
to blame,
Exactly.
to pass the blame to Trinidad, that Trinidad not sending no money and this and that and the other. Let's be honest with ourselves. I am positive that if by now Minister Imbot was not transferring money on a quarterly basis to the THA,
We don't know.
this present Secretary for Finance and Economy would have been the first one to get up and say,
Yeah.
Imbot and sending me no money.
Exactly.
But if you realize the people who talking about Trinidad and sending no money, it's not the secretary, it's the people around him.
Yeah.
Because the secretary knows that is not true.
That is not true. That is indeed not true. So we've seen literally a case of economic recovery sliding all the way to economic decline. Folks, don't go anywhere. We're going to take a short break, pay some bills, and when we get back, we continue the discussion of the declining image of the THA. We'll be right back.
This is how it's gonna go. They better look up and look, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up and look. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show.
Good morning, morning, good morning, morning. Put a smile on your
Jimmy's Holiday Resorts has 1, 2, and 3 bedroom, fully self-contained apartments located at the heart of Crown Point. Minutes walk to the popular beaches, restaurants, bars, and the airport. Enjoy our amazing amenities such as fully equipped apartments, complete with Wi-Fi, AC, TV, and a pool, and a mini-mart on the compound. Call 639-8292 or 8929. Jimmy's Holiday Resorts is your family's home away from home.
From the experts that created the Zinger sandwich comes the KFC Crispy Barbecue Zinger. Cheddar cheese, crispy onions, the most delicious Kentucky Fried Chicken, and barbecue sauce. Get ready for a whole new level of flavor.
So, folks, we're back, and some interesting discussions taking place off air, and we want to take the conversation in a particular direction. So, as indicated when we were heading out, we are looking this evening at the declining image of the THA, and there are certain things that Tobago would have been known for One of those things in times past would have been the agriculture sector as well. What we saw coming out of COVID was a great amount of emphasis being placed on developing farmers. We saw the merging of 3 special purpose companies and the emergence of TADCO, who had a mandate which was linked to developing and enhancing the agricultural products on the island, and also creating the opportunity where farmers can be facilitated with respect to sales and purchases of crops and livestock and that kind of thing. We also saw the previous administration, PNM-led administration, go on a drive to empower farmers with not just training, but opportunity to lease lands and to give out land grants and so on. So a lot was taking place in the agricultural sector that would have signaled that over a period of time, we would have seen remarkable results. Where are we now? We've lost that image. We've lost that drive. And I know Max Londa is right down your alley. Quite a lot I think you would have to say about this. So give us some perspective.
And when you mentioned the merging of the companies to form TADCO, and I could recall the benefits that brought to farmers, particularly in that COVID period when they were doing the food boxes. I would have sold a number of produce to TADCO. And you go this week, drop off your goods. Next week when you go to drop again, you collect your check from the previous week. And that ran, and I know a whole lot of farmers who benefited from that. So when we saw what was happening with the relationship between Novo now, bringing these same commodities to Tobago, whilst we have commodities and ours are just there, wasting, that was a slap in the face. So, point to note. And I noticed in the budget, there is something, and I would always say that Tobago has what is referred to as an absolute advantage when it comes to a particular commodity in agriculture. We have an absolute advantage in cocoa production. Because, and it has nothing to do with our ability or inability. Once you grow a cocoa in the soils of Tobago, you get what is referred to as flying favor cocoa coming from that product. And that product sells premium in the world, right? Standard, you always find that. In that, from the budget, I saw nothing speaking towards the rehabilitation of cocoa, the development of the cocoa industry, revitalizing the cocoa, anything in that regard. There was nothing mentioned regarding cocoa.
But that was part of the campaign.
It was. Oh, they forgot to put it in the budget. They forgot that. Right? We have and I don't think people understand what an absolute advantage is. China has an absolute advantage when it comes to labor.
Yes.
If you want next one, you Maryland, go China, you'll find it. That is what they have an absolute advantage of. We have as a small island, to have an absolute advantage in a commodity that the world requires, a premium commodity, and not pay any attention to it. That's thought for concern. Then we could look at, you spoke about how we did a significant amount of work in land distribution. To help the farmers. We did land distributions in Lamy Road in Argyle for farmers in there. We did land distribution in Friendship. Belmont. We then, in Belmont, all of those we did land and gave people documents that they can now take to the bank to get funding, take to wherever institution to get funding. Where are those projects now? When you pass through Belmont, and I'll leave this when you pass through Belmont, nothing is happening there. I pass on that road, travels that way regularly. Nothing is happening there. When you look at the farmers in Argyle, in Lamy Road in particular, they've been through the farmers group. They wanted to start a protest in terms of they believe they're being spite because listen why? Because the previous administration gave them the land, and they are if the feeling that this administration is denying them the ability to have their lands plowed and operate and stuff like that because they've been clamoring for the services of the tractors and they haven't been getting none. Imagine that is what you have persons thinking, all right? So there is much to desire as it relates to agriculture and us moving forward, because I would always say if we have to take agriculture anyway, we must invest heavily in research and development and training. Those three areas: training, research, and development. We cannot advance if we refuse to pay attention. So the one good thing I saw is that they mentioned the desire to develop the Kendall Farm School into a kind of, I don't know if it was research, but some kind of institute that treats with that. But we'll see where that goes, because we can all agree that this administration has the propensity
To promise.
to say one thing and do something else.
No, let's call it what it is. To
Right?
promise.
So we need some serious intervention in when it comes to moving the sector. If we're going to be serious in food security, food sovereignty, food sustainability, we're not doing anything close to reaching that goal. All right. One more thing: the excavator down in the let me leave that alone.
But well, even the excavator down at division of food production.
You are the equipment operator.
Yes, sir.
That's been there a year, just sitting there.
Yeah, man. It could be good when it starts.
I'm
you could start
glad
it
that-
your work.
I'm glad that that point was raised, because I also want to bring to the conversation now. Today, the party hosted a press conference, and Senator Hislop, you were there, and there were a number of issues spoken to and treated with. But on that same point, we see somewhat of a recurring decimal when it comes to payment of salaries of workers, especially, now it's affecting all of the THA, but especially in the division of agriculture. And I remember very early on in this administration's tenure, we saw this issue. This was the first issue that rose up. And persons in this public domain were saying, give them chance to sort it out. And the secretary even was saying, it's something that we're working on. They even tried to say we inherited this problem. And a number of excuses, left, right, and center, about why in the first quarter of 2022, agriculture workers were being paid their salaries late. Here we are in the second half of 2023, almost a year and a half later, and we still have, as recent as last week, the division only issuing a memo when a reporter brought this story to the public domain and printed that, hey, people keep calling me now, the Division of Agriculture, workers are not being paid or have not been paid for as many as 3 or 4 fortnights. Then we see the division issuing a release simply stating, when we get money, we'll pay. And it brings to light the emphasis. We talk about prioritizing. We saw this administration strip our students of opportunities to be comfortable while they're in tertiary level studies in Jamaica because their priorities were misplaced. We see now, as much as this administration talks about agriculture, you're not paying the workers. I remember the chief secretary boasting, and everything is always the first, the largest ever in the THA. It was the largest purchase of equipment. And that's why I said I was glad you brought it up. The largest purchase of equipment.
We gotta ask a question.
But it's still,
when was that purchase?
Procured.
When did the procurement process start?
oh,
Because I know
mhm.
in the field that I'm in, you can't just walk in to a dealership in Trinidad and
Give
walk
me
out
that.
with 5 tractors. I know that's not possible,
Right.
right? Usually heavy equipment is on order. And so you have to ask whose vision it was to procure all of this equipment.
Yeah, but remember the mantra is that the PNM didn't do anything. So they would never give credit where credit is due because, I mean,
But even with that, how has that equipment been utilized?
No,
this
no,
far?
has
no.
been-
Right. So the wheel tractors have been out and operating.
Mhm.
I must give them some credit for that. And they're saying that there has been a significant backlog in the requester tractor pool. But one of the challenges I had with that is that for the majority of the dry season, all of the equipment will parked up at agriculture. So the time in the year when you're supposed to be out in the field doing land preparation, you have the equipment parked up. And then you're now seeking to have your tractors out and about when the farmers when land should have been prepared so that when you get the first set of rainfall, farmers they're ready to go.
Yeah.
And it boils down to a level of management. You just can't manage what you say, what you have. And so I'm hoping that we could get the backlog out of the way. All the farmers could be seen about. I don't know if they'll be able to see to all the farmers by the end of the rainy season. And so we'll roll back into another year where some farmers will not be taken care of in terms of land preparation.
There are areas that I have noticed in Goldsboro, in that same Lamy Road, where they did the deep plow
Right.
when the place was dry. That needs to be rotavated and banked.
And they can't go back in
All right.
because the place is wet.
Please, the
So you can't rotovate, and I'm sure the guys who are experts in as we just call them farmer in those tractors will tell you that you can't really rotovate if the place is wet because you wouldn't get the deep plow.
yeah, the
Breaking up as it
tires
should.
would be clogged with mud all
That's
the time.
right. So when you should have been doing this during the dry season, and I would like to know what was the delay in rolling out the tractors so that the operators could have started to work, because you had all dry season.
6 months.
You had
at least.
all dry season when you were supposed to be doing land preparation, because you can't bank with wet stuff, because you it's not gonna bank properly, and you can't rotovate with wet stuff. So 6 months the tractor sat, and I would really like to know what was the delay because you had operators. It's not like you didn't have operators to operate the tractors. So what was the delay? Is it that we were comfortable in seeing the tractors parked up in front of the office as an ornament?
It was impressive.
I mean, I think that the delay is simply that the administration has been operating kind of lackluster and don't care, laissez-faire. And Tobagonians have been, I think we need to say what it is. Tobagonians have been hoodwinked. The majority of us bought this story, bought this mantra, and we were hopeful. I mean, even after the initial sting was over, I was hopeful. I was hopeful. I said, well, all right, it's a young administration, give them a chance, because I have friends on the other side. And I said, okay. They said, all right, I shall give it a chance. Give it a chance. I said, okay, I have no problem giving people a chance. But from the onset, from the 7th of December, 2021, you started with lies. And since then, you have been lying to cover the lies. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's disheartening. And I think for me, it has become a bit more personal for me, with everything that I have been through because of this administration. But it is very discouraging as a young person in Tobago I was out and about in Tobago today, in Scarborough today, and people are not walking into places to buy anything. You're walking around and window shopping.
No spending point.
Nothing. I know that probably the banks and the credit unions are trying their best to get people to come in. There are specials all over. But how can I come in when I'm unsure?
Yeah.
of what is going to happen next month with my job. And we know that the THA hires what is about 70% of the workforce here in Tobago. So it's very discouraging. Like, the economy has literally gone down. And you see it everywhere you go. People are just walking around, doom and gloom, like, okay. Even some of the feds, like I saw some videos and thing, and not as much people out.
Undersubscribe.
Yeah. The promoters have to make their venues, their space smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have to make their spaces smaller to accommodate, because you know that normally you would have sold 500 tickets. Now you're probably selling 200. So therefore that larger space is not needed. You have to close your event, close it in. So it's affecting not just agriculture, but I think it's the entire economy that is totally affected by this wool that has been pulled over all our eyes.
I'm receiving some messages here as well, and as I said, many people tune into the program. I'm receiving a message from a particular farmer who says that the farmers in Corland are suffering badly, are waiting on Tractor Pool forever. They said that they're still waiting for them to come to their particular land space, even though they already paid for it a long time ago. And the delay, as was said to them, is that there are no operators for the tractors, and that they are taking forever to train individuals.
You see what
How long does it take?
So I wouldn't answer. I wouldn't answer a question based on, because the operations of a tractor for plowing and land preparation is completely different to my expertise, right? Because it requires a knowledge of the equipment that I don't have, and I'm not ashamed to say that, because that is not something I got into. But I find that answer a little weak, in the sense that, if I'm not mistaken, Tractor Pool had operators from before. I know they have additional tractors, so maybe they're seeking to train additional operators, right? But I still am not buying. I'm still not buying that. I would really
why would you have an order for and you have operators?
As a student, right? It took us 1 day to learn how to use that tractor to operate it, because it's just a matter of attaching implements. Now, the legality of getting the license and all of that might take a little while, but the physical operating to attach any one of those implements, a brush cut, a rotavator, or plow.
To be fair, it would because, all right, in the equipment world, you get versed based on the amount of hours you spend on a piece of
experience.
Correct.
So when we train, because I'm certified to train, so when we train people, we can go through a period of, so let's say, for example, for an excavator, when we were doing courses with YTEP to train people, you had somewhere in the vicinity of about 250 hours that you had to acquire.
Right.
But even after that, you weren't versed enough for me to take you out of a program and put you on an excavator and tell you, go and bench the side of a back. Because that takes on-the-job experience, right? So it may take you a day to learn how to attach the implements to the tractor, but every plot of land that you go to is a different experience that you get. So when you talk to some of the, because I know one of the senior operators at Tractor Pool, and when you talk to him, he didn't get to that position overnight, and he is one of the operators that you could send. It's only him you could send to particular terrain to work, right?
Skilled.
Yes. So it may take a little while, but I don't see that the length of time that the tractors have been on island. I can't see that being the real excuse.
That's what I'm going to
anymore.
say. They've been packed up for 6 months.
So it could have been that during the period of time in the dry season when they were packed up at the division, the operators were being trained. I'm just saying that. But I'm seeing.
Practical.
No. I just trying to be fair.
logical.
No, I just trying to be fair.
That's even logical.
But Marlon, I have seen I've seen some of the brand new tractors on the road working,
Yeah.
which means that operators are trained up. So I'm not. So I really.
Rainy season now.
Yeah, but I see tractors passing me up
Yeah,
and down the
up
road.
and down the road.
20 tractors were plowing.
In the wet.
This piece of land down at Chauvin, right by the roundabout for a farmer.
Right, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
They deep plowed. They started the rotovision. Rain came down, they had to stop. They had to come back the next day to rotovate. And they embanked it because I sure the place too wet for them to bank. Because you see what happens now, if the place is too wet to bank, and you run the tractor in that, the tractor is going to clump up the dirt. So you might end up going back to the same position of deep plowing. So I'm not totally buying the excuse, but farmers feeling it. Farmers feeling it. And I accept the fact from the division that there was a backlog because you had defective equipment for a number of years, and there could be a backlog. But then when you wait all of the dry season, and you know in the rainy season, tractors are not going to go out every day to plow because you can't do the work if the place is too wet.
So far, what we've seen here, based on our discussion, coming out of the efforts that would have been made, and Maxlan, you would have identified quite a lot that would have been done with respect to farmers and in terms of land distribution, in terms of some of the training processes and that kind of thing. Even with respect to seedlings being made available to farmers, we've now seen something that barely even represents a sector. Let me also bring to remembrance that at Friendship, all the lands that would have been allocated for agriculture who now
has not been allocated for something else.
Redistributed and reallocated. And again, where is the emphasis of this administration on something that they claim to love so much?
Agriculture went down by how much percent? 9%?
Almost 10%.
10%.
Yeah.
So
Decline.
That's why I like numbers. Numbers do not lie.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So we definitely see that. Now, though there's still so much that we can pull out of that conversation about agriculture, I want us to shift a bit because, again, we're talking about the declining image. And I want to throw this in. Any one of you all passed through Scarborough recently?
Yeah, I was in Scarborough today and last
Have you
week.
seen the condition of the boardwalk?
Oh yeah, I was by the boardwalk.
Have you seen the condition of Scarborough on a whole?
It's getting worse.
No, I said that to set this part of the conversation up. It seems as if the only time we hear about the redevelopment plan is when this administration is backed in a corner. When information is coming out that suggests that they're doing a terrible job. And then you start to hear the ideas and so on. And we heard the Secretary of Infrastructure speak in the town meeting about the Scarborough redevelopment plan and the resurgence of it. And so much that would have been done and so much went into quote-unquote consultations and so on for this Scarborough redevelopment plan. But the image of Scarborough has declined drastically in the last 20 months. Scarborough is no longer a bright and active place, as Aisha was suggesting. People don't have buying power, so people just window shopping. The instability that is the general air throughout the island, even at the banks, and this is something that is critical, and I'm really sad that Minority Councillor wasn't here because she definitely unfolds this part of the conversation. The banks are no longer in a place where they favor employees.
Correct.
Within the THA.
Yeah.
There's no favor when you go to the bank. The banks look at you and they want you to produce your contract in many instances, and then they are not willing to give you any loan facility that goes beyond their contract date. That says quite a lot with respect to the confidence of the financial sector in the THA, and it's not in the THA employees, in the THA itself. And so from a financial standpoint, even when so much effort went into the last 20 plus years to build credibility with the banking sector and other financial sectors, we now see in less than 2 years, and actually a year and a half, if so much, a complete slide, a complete and total slide away from that. Now, what does this say for us in terms of credibility? I know we would have seen last year Moody's removing their rating from Tobago as well. How are we seen now in relation to being able to manage and to handle our affairs from a financial standpoint?
Marlon, there we go. Tobago. And this is me personally. It's deplorable because I had a 3-year contract. 3-year contract, and 1 year within that contract, one day everyone was called to a meeting and given letters to say this is your last day, 1st of July last year. And now, a year ago, I just signed a 3-year contract. So any facility that I would have had before that with the bank, and this is after working in the THA for 11 years.
Wow.
And for me, being called a political hire, that kind of hurts. The banks are calling every day. Other institutions, wherever you had money, you need to pay. I have 2 daughters as a single mother. So imagine the 1st of July getting a letter that you are no longer employed and you're only getting 1 month's salary. And I have 2 book lists to sort out. At that point in time, I just had to thank God for friends and family, and for putting me in positions and making sure that, and even then, even while I was at CPEP, upskilling, because I'm not a political hire. I went through interview process for every position. Every promotion that I got in the THA, I had to interview for it and pass the interview and function properly in my position because I was qualified for what I was in. So, and not just me, but the other people in the organization at that time. And then to be told, you're fired. Well, no, that's not the word. Sorry. The word is restructuring.
Yeah.
I shall remember that. Restructuring. That they are restructuring and you can reapply, and you would be, if you are not successful, you would be redeployed. Now, me thinking in my mind saying, but if you fire me, how you redeploying me and I'm out of the system? It didn't make sense to me, but at that point in time, you had to follow the process.
Yeah.
And again, as I say, it's a year later, and nothing. Persons who were not re-engaged, and it's very few persons who are re-engaged. Persons who were not re-engaged are still seeking employment elsewhere. And again, institutions are calling for their money. They don't want to hear that you were fired or that the THA decided to restructure. They know their last documentation of you is that you had a continuous contract with the THA. Your job letter said that you are permanently employed with the THA since how much years ago? So they went on that basis.
Legitimate expectation.
Yeah, the legitimate expectation for you to fulfill your facility. And so now imagine going through that process, because I think at some point in time in me living in Tobago, because I'm not originally from here, I'm not born here, and I've been here for a while, so I consider myself to be I've been here for almost 20 years, so I consider myself to be, a Tobagonian. And for me, seeing the development, because I was not originally PNM, and that's my problem. The first time I ever voted, I voted People's Partnership. And I'm not ashamed to say it, I voted People's Partnership. And I remember being invited to a meeting and being asked to speak. And I wrote a speech, and the person at the time told me, said, no, that's not what I wanted to read. Look the information. And when I looked through that booklet to see the amount of things that the PNM did in Tobago, I had to change the I had to rewrite that speech. Because I'm saying, and I asked the person, I said, if the PNM is doing all of this, how come I didn't know? Because the information is there. How come I didn't know? Why aren't you all sharing this information? And it saddens me that at this point in time, how much years later, people still are saying that the PNM isn't doing anything. And people are still saying how the PNM bad and wicked and, all these things. And I have seen, since I've been here, a vast change in what I can access. Because I accessed my education through the PNM, through the gate process. Other than that, I don't know, because my parents didn't have the money. Other than that, I don't know how I would have been sitting here today, finishing a master's, with a bachelor degree, with an associate degree, finishing a master's, plus other professional certificates. But the thing is, even with all of that, I still without a job in the THA. Why? Because apparently I was a political hire. And with all of these things, I'm not even self-worried about me, because I know God has me. I know, listen, something has to work out. But what about the people who are worse off than me?
Yeah.
Because even in my situation, there are still people asking for help,
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
People know that Aisha not working, and they still ask for help. And whatever little I could get, I might call Marlon, call somebody, call some business place that I know and say, listen, somebody needs help, because I am unable to do it. And there are so many people still crying out. And I think that's why the economy is in such a state. There are so many people who are not able to go to the corner shop.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Far less to go to the supermarket.
Yeah.
Like I went into a supermarket the other day, and this was a bustling supermarket, and it was almost empty. And I'm saying, well, where all these stuff in the supermarket? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And it's just that, and I sat outside the supermarket for like half an hour waiting on transportation, and the amount of people I normally see go in and out of the supermarket, that wasn't happening. So then I understood what the situation was. It is affecting the incompetence and the mismanagement of, and as I said, the decline of the THA is affecting every aspect of Tobago, every arm, every toenail in Tobago. And as I said, it's a bit demotivating if you don't have good friends and family and people that you can lean on. At this point, you're in trouble.
Wow. Folks, we're going to take a short break. I think we could just come back and let Aisha talk for the rest of the program.
Yeah.
Aisha, quite a lot said there, and I know persons, you've brought a lot of clarity and perspective. So we're going to take a short break, pay some bills, and when we get back, we continue this discussion this evening. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Excel Spa by Haley, where our highly trained staff are ready to deliver the top-class services in facial massages, waxing, nail enhancement and body treatment. We are ideally located at Coco Avenue, Switzerland, Tobago. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TripAdvisor, or you can call us on 730-0149. Excel Spa by Haley. Relax, renew, and rejuvenate.
Tobago, after freeness is more speed and better TV. Get a free Samsung smartphone and free installation, plus 200 megabits per second, Paramount Plus, and more for only $299 with a select 200 plan from Flow. Visit online at discoverflow.co today.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tapago. Your meals, medication, groceries, and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tapago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tapago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tapago's at your service.
So folks, we are back with our program this evening, and I mean, very, very pressing and pensive discussions, and we're going to be going back to Aisha because I think there's still some more. I just want to very quickly identify with a comment that would have been made on the live this evening. We saw from the Tobago Reforestation and Watershed Rehabilitation Program. There is an inverse relationship between land distribution for agriculture and agriculture production. For years, land distribution was mainly for PNM party hacks. That is a fact. Now, what is interesting, and the individual tried to change because it came under the heading of a THA entity.
That's right.
And I'm going to call him out, Didan Daniel, because he tried to change it and made a subsequent comment. What's interesting to note, folks, is that, and we clearly think that this was in error, because Didan Daniel is the chairman of the Tobago Reforestation and Watershed Rehabilitation Program. And here it is that the chairman of such a program is blatantly saying that land distribution to farmers was a party favor or even. This is so baffling tonight, and God exposes things in the simplest of ways, because Mr. Daniel, we know that you had no intention of making that comment under the Tobago Reforestation and Watershed Rehabilitation Program site or page. But here it is that all of Tobago can see. This is an individual who is vested with the responsibility to develop farmers, to develop farming in the island and agriculture, which must involve land distribution, helping farmers to not just acquire but to own the lands. And this individual is saying that that process it should be done away with. In other words, it should be outlawed because that is an old system. And this is clear and it speaks volumes to, and I mean, that's why I said God.
No, but when you
it's just like the audio recording.
But when you sit when you sit on a board of a government entity, your responsibility is to treat with all citizens, no matter the political affiliation. And for this to have come, that statement to have come from a government THA entity, if there is any modicum of decency in the administration, Mr. Daniel is to be removed as the chairman of the board.
With immediate effect.
If there is any modicum of decency, because the two comments are identical. One from the Tobago Reforestation and Watershed Rehabilitation Program, and one from Mr. Daniel. And if Mr. Daniel is the chairman of that board, and that statement comes from a THA entity, then that.
Where are we heading? Aisha, let me go back to you. We needed to expose Mr. Daniel, who by the way, as I heard this, was one of the on the propaganda machine.
I don't know.
I don't know. Max said he saw the machine.
I know how many quarters.
But seemingly he's a propagandist. But so.
Now quarters closer.
Yeah, but it simply goes back to, because I saw the comment and then the person is speaking about the how they claim it's a fact that land has been distributed to PNM people. So it again goes back to what is going on now, the victimization.
Clear victimization.
Of people who you think are PNM or associated with the PNM. Party hacks and political hires and all of this. And the thing is that this administration, but I guess probably they had a mandate under the old party about not hiring. The chief secretary said that, and I think I saw that clip sometime again, that they are not going to be firing anybody. But then the first thing, within the first year, within the first
slash and burn
8 months of you being in office, at least 200 persons were sent home. At least 200 persons were sent home. And I saw one of my ex-co-workers the other day, and I saw another one today. And I saw her, and she didn't look happy at all. It was this kind of sad, depressing kind of look. And even the one I saw today, she said salaries have been cut. So the amount of money so even if you got back your job, the amount of money that you were working for, you are still doing the same job, just for less money. For less money. So your bills, right? That remains the same from when they fired you. But your salary is less. So now you have to cut and contrive and figure it out, see how you're working it out. You and the institution and buying food and paying light bill, phone bill, whatever other bills you have, in order just to keep your head above water. Just to keep your head above water. Now, I want to say this. I moved to Tobago because my grandmother told me wonderful stories about Tobago. She is originally from Castara. And she told me really good stories about the land, and they used to plant. They have land up in Saw Pit. Saw Pit is Castara side, right? Yeah. And she used to go up there with her father, and so I know Tobago can produce because of these stories that my grandmother and her brothers and my uncles and them, they would tell. And when life changed for me in Trinidad, I said, I'm going home. And I came here and started from the bottom. And when I say I started from the bottom, even though I had a full set of subjects, I started to work as a cashier in the supermarket. Why? Because I just wanted something to do. I didn't want to sit at home doing anything. At that point in time, I had a child to feed. And so I needed to do something. And imagine now working your way up. Right? From as a cashier to my last position in THA was a monitoring and evaluation officer. Along the way, studying and everything, and then to be told you're a political hire. Something you know nothing about. Yes, you are affiliated with a political organization, just as everybody else in Tobago.
Which is your right.
Which is my right
Which is your
as a citizen. As a citizen of the island, it's my right to associate myself. But then, because of that, my freedom of choice, it comes like that. It comes like you're being victimized and you're being judged because you chose something other than the current situation.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. You are being victimized, you are being judged, you are blacklisted. And I didn't believe it when someone said, you all are blacklisted, whatever. And then another person who I was working with came and told me the same thing. That our names are on a list of persons not to hire in any division in the THA. So forget that. Forget applying to the THA for anything. Forget applying to the THA for anything at all. No, you have to fight with probably going to Trinidad for work because the private sector in Tobago is not as robust as we would like it to be. And the other day I was telling a friend, I think I done, like, I fed up apply. I fed up apply and apply for jobs and send out my resume and talk to this one or speak to that one. I'm tired. I think I could rest where that is concerned. But then when you think about it, I can't. I have 2 mouths to feed. Who didn't ask to come here, books to buy. My oldest daughter is in Form 6.
Wow.
Yeah. The youngest one wants to be a part of everything. Meaning
every activity.
Every activity.
Some activity. They want to go here. They want to
every
go
activity.
Swim.
Yeah. She's in swimming. She wants to be in athletics. She wants to play cricket. She wants to play football.
Wow.
And I have to deny her now. Costs. Yeah, everything costs because you have to pay the coaches. You have to get uniform. You have to. I have to deny her now because I'm saying I can't afford. And I let my children know. I am doing this. Everything that you all get, I'm doing it by myself, me and God. And help from my mother, my friends, whoever could help at that point in time. And I like how you laugh because it's whoever could help at that point in time because everybody has their own situation that they're dealing with. So we have to cut back on what mommy could have afforded last year. She can't this year. So every now and again we might get a little splurge if and I thank God that I'm blessed with different skills. So sometimes private clients might call and say, Aisha, we need this or we need that or we need the other. And so when that happens, I give them a little treat.
Right.
Treat myself and treat them to something a little nice. And then we use the rest to just survive. And that's basically what has been happening. And I'm saying not just for me, but for so many other people, because about a month ago, I got a call, a family, a single mother with 2 children, nothing to eat, no passage for the child to go to school, and the person is asking me if I could help. And I said, Lord, what are you doing? Yeah? Person is asking me if I could help because they asked somebody else for help and the help didn't come through. And you just had to give wherever you can and help wherever you can because somebody else has it worse off than you. Imagine you can't send your child to school. And in school you're getting breakfast, you're getting lunch. All you have to worry about when that child goes to school is what they're eating when they get home. What's for dinner.
Yeah.
And you can't even do that. So they're home, you don't have anything for them to eat at home. You can't send them to school where they can get something to eat. So everybody just home, sit down watching one another hungry. And the politicians are living large, traveling, spending the weekend in Hyatt and wherever, and hopping planes like
Taxis.
And there are people on the island who are not eating. People on the island who can't send their children to school. What kind of heart is that? I don't understand it. Like, I don't understand what kind of heart we have for our own people. And I'm saying our own people because Tobago people are my people too. So it's our own people. What kind of heart it is we have for Tobagonians, for your own brother and sister. And then what hurts me more is that it's like the supporters are not, I don't know, like a friend of mine says they eat too much bread.
They call us.
They eat too much bread. So it's like, it's like you don't care.
They don't care. And it was evidenced by the statement made here tonight on the live by Mr. Daniel. Clear evidence of an uncaring, heartless, callous administration that has fueled their supporters with that same type of spirit and that same quote-unquote anointing and have gone on a rampage throughout Tobago. And guys, I mean, this is where we have to wrap up our conversations this evening. I am always at a point where when we close in, sometimes that's the time people want us to continue, but we really, not out of words, but we are out of time. Aisha, I want to say thank you for being a part of the conversation tonight. I know that you definitely will be back.
Yep.
You will be back.
Top-notch conversation.
Senator Hislop, I mean, well, you are part of the team, Max, and I mean, we're going to be having a lot more conversations in terms of agriculture and development of agriculture as we continue. And folks, I want to say thanks for logging in and supporting the conversations and even making your comments, good, bad, and indifferent. As I always indicate, we welcome all recommendations, we welcome all comments, because this is not a program that is a dictator type of program. This is a program that wants to hear from everyone. We value your contributions. So we look forward to seeing you next week, Tuesday. We have a special guest lined up for next Tuesday. I'm not going to let it out of the bag yet, but definitely we want you to log in and be a part of the conversation. So guys, thanks a lot for this evening. As per usual, Senator, I know I'm going to see you back here next week as well. So have a wonderful evening, folks, and stay blessed and stay prayed up.